So today we're going to take a look at Doom of Molech, which is the second of the Adeptus Titanicus supplements. These seem to be coming about every 3 months, accompanied by the release of new plastic kits. So Doom of Molech is accompanied by the Spires kit for terrain. However, it looks very much like there'll be an Adeptus Knight kit coming fairly soon, because it's mentioned as a knight banner that you can take in the book. I'm going to divide this video into 2 parts. In the first part I'm going to deal with the Legios and the Maniples that are in this book. So, Doom of Molech, lovely hardback book. Again, you've got this bookmark. Again, you've got very high quality full colour printing throughout. So this is the Forge World Black Book level supplements that it's normal for Titanicus. So the production quality is great. You've also got the new Warhammer symbol on it, which indicates that they decided to do that a little while ago. Blurb on the back lays it out what's going to happen. Some of this stuff is very interesting. Certainly the battlefields and the battlefield hazard rules are very interesting. The narrative missions are good. You've got a couple of missions. One is Knights versus Titans, so it's Loyalist Knights versus Legio Mortis Titans, and the other is Traitor Knights versus Loyalist Knights. There are 7 knight households in the book with rules. One of them is House Divine, which is the traitor house, though you can take them as Loyalist. However, there is absolutely no reason not to simply pick the knight household that suits your playstyle and apply it to whatever colour scheme you want to go with. Ditto the Legio rules. There's no reason not to have Legio Mortis and have a colour scheme that suits you and have your own Legio. So this is an 80-page supplement. For Adeptus Titanicus, the release model appears to be the supplements add scenarios, they add legios, they add knight households, they add stuff like that, they add scenario rules. The rules for models come on card packs that you get separately. The rules for weapons come in weapon packs that you get separately. So the Adeptus Knight, which is mentioned, there's no rules for it in here. I imagine that's going to be in a new Knight control board pack that will replace the one that's gone out of print. So it will probably cover Cerastus, Acastus and Questoris, maybe 2 of each, maybe you'll only get 1 of something in there. The Knight rules are quite in depth and I'm going to do those in a separate video. So let's start talking about what you get in the supplement. So if you're familiar with the Vengeful Spirit book from Horus Heresy, that covers the War Master's invasion of Molech, which is a few pages of this, and then you get on to Molech and what that's about. Again, background of the history of the planet, how House Divine ended up being the biggest and preeminent house on the planet, what happened with that. Again, the history covers the decisive battles. It misses out an awful lot of what is in the Vengeful Spirit book. The Vengeful Spirit book is a good book and I do recommend it to you if you want to read one of the Horus Heresy books. Also, compared to the first supplement, which was Beta Garman, this jumps back in time to earlier in the Heresy, and it indicates that Specialist Games are not afraid to go to different bits of the timeline. So that inevitably there'll be a Siege of Terror book, but it means there might be a Dropsite Massacre book. It means there might be books about other decisive Titan battles, either that are portrayed in the Horus Heresy novels or that are created by the Specialist Games team to fill out the background and give them a chance to introduce new Legios. So we're going to start talking about the Legios. There are 2 Loyalist and 2 Traitor. The first one is Legio Croesus, the Warmongers. So they're a relatively new Legio. They've got newer Titans, and the mechanics that they take advantage of are bonuses to repair rolls. So let's zoom in a little bit. So I'm zooming in particularly on the traits. They've got some specific war gear that you can equip Titans with, but the rules that come with it are, in the first 2 turns, if you make a repair roll, you can reroll results of 1, and if you are trying to repair, if you're trying to vent plasma, if you do so on a 6, you decrease your Titan's reactor level by 2 rather than 1. Which means that potentially you can use more plasma weapons, you can use more draining weapons, you can use weapons that are going to push your reactor, because in the end phase, if you roll a 6, you drop your level by 2. You've got a piece of equipment you can buy where if you have to roll on the reactor overload table, you can give your Titan a shutdown order instead, and that is plus 30 points. You've got power containment. So, when you fire something with the draining trait, you roll a dice. On a 4+, you roll the reactor dice twice and choose the result you want. But on a 1, you roll it twice and you choose the worst result. And if they're the same, you've got to choose the result that awakens the machine spirit. The traits, again, you've got a trait that plays with the damage control phase, a trait that helps with command checks, and a trait that gives you a new secondary objective worth 5 victory points. That's all very nice. You're probably going to want to look at the colour schemes. So, Warlord and Reaver, you've got a nice black, you've got white shoulder pads, you've got some checks on the knee pads. White with this sort of marbling is going to be reasonably tricky to paint. Reasonable number of checks, again, depending on how you do it, reasonably tricky to paint. The black, where you're looking at this black with just that hint of deep blue in, not that difficult. And you've got gold trim. So that is a really nice colour scheme, very visually distinctive. I'm thinking back to the Titan Death supplement with Legio Vulpa, where it was a bit garish and people were a bit meh about it. So that's the first Loyalist Legio. The second Loyalist Legio is Legio Fortunis, which is Legio Dauntless. They play around with the command phase, so that's where their special rules go. So you've got no penalties to command. You can change one of the mandatory Titan components of any maniple. So it means that you can have Venator maniples with a Warlord. It means you can have you can replace things with Warhounds, you can replace things with Reavers, you can replace things with Warlords. It lets you play around quite a lot with it, and that opens up quite a bit of potential. The Titan you replace counts as the Titan it would be in the formation. So in a Venator maniple, if you replace it with a Warlord, then it counts as the Titan you replace still gets the benefits of that rule. So if you drop a Warlord in there with Quake Cannons, laser blasters, whatever, that still counts as the Reaver in a Venator formation. So you can send the Warhounds off forward, strip shields, and start punching out the opportunistic strikes with a Warlord. So that opens up a lot for you. Certainly there's a bunch of maniples where if you could ditch a Reaver for a Warlord or a Warhound, that would be very beneficial to you. Legio rules, you can ignore all penalties for command checks and all effects that make you reroll successful command checks. So even your Knight Banners get rerolls to avoid becoming shaken. if they're within line of sight of one of your Titans, as long as it's a battle Titan, not a scout Titan. That keeps you in the fight. So when negatives stack up and you're shaking your knights and things like that, you get the rerolls, you get to ignore the penalties, and it keeps you going. Let's see, 2-point stratagem. Titan ignores the damage effects of critical damage to head, body or legs as chosen by the player when the stratagem is revealed. Again, that can keep you in the fight. Red skies, if you're going to get blown up, you can spend a command point and add 5 to your scale when resolving the catastrophic damage. That means if your Reaver is getting punched out by a Warlord with a Power Fist, you can blow up massively and try and do them as much damage as possible. Traits, broken by treachery, you can reroll. If you've got a Princeps in a Reaver or a Warlord, if they're in a Reaver, they can reroll dice for their first attack roll of the game against a Titan of equal or larger scale. If you've got a weapon with multiple attack dice, you reroll all of them. So that's not necessarily a great trait. Better is Soldier of the Great Crusade, which gives you a bonus stratagem point. Or Immortal of Mars, count the effective critical damage to your head as 1 level lower than it is. Basically. The colour scheme. So, quick zoom in. You've got a rather striking burnished coppery orange and white. Again, you've got white used as the secondary colour, but this colour does look very nice, very bright. It's going to be how you do it, basically. So I imagine there'll be some nice painting tutorials coming out regarding this, and that will give you a good idea of how to do it. So that's the Loyalist Legios. One of them bonuses to command, one of them bonuses to repair. So the Traitor Legios, Legio Vulturnus. So Legio Vulturnus is made up of 2 Legios. So these 2 Legios both use clone Princeps and clone crews. So there's some stuff that relates to that in the rules. You get 2 Princeps Signores. So that lets you have two guys who give you the command bonuses. If one of those is killed, the other one gets an unrepairable Princeps wounded damage effect. It's good, but there's a little bit of a drawback. Also, when Titans start going down, for every Titan that you've lost and has been destroyed, that's one of the Legio Vulturnus, you get a reroll each battle round. So if you had 6 Titans and you've lost 2, that's 2 rerolls a turn. You've then got a specific stratagem. If you've successfully issued an order to a Legio Vulturnus Titan, you can choose to give the same order to any or all of the Legio Vulturnus Titans in that battle group without having to make checks, which again can keep your guys in the fight. So that's a 1-point stratagem. For war gear, you've got 2 reasonably nifty pieces of kit that really help you out. You can squadron any 2 Titans for 20 points. So Warlords, Reavers, etc. But if one of those Titans rolls the Machine Spirit roll, they both have to test. So again, that can give you all sorts of issues. You can pair up multiple Titans in your battle group in little squadrons of 2. You also have Janus pattern missiles, which means when you fire your Apocalypse missile launchers, and it's 20 points regardless of whether it's a Reaver or a Warlord, you can split your dice. You pick your primary target, you've got to allocate at least 1 dice of missiles to that, but other stuff within 12 inches, you can allocate the rest. So for a Warlord, that's quite good, and you can try and strip shields off, say, 2 separate Warhounds that are not together doing the shield bubble. Warlord traits, you've got 3 traits, 2 of which play with command. So Trueborn gives you +3 on your command checks, but if you roll a 1, you can't make any other command checks for the battle group. Divided of mind, if you fail a command check with your Princeps, you roll the order dice and apply that order to the Titan, unless it's the shutdown where you choose. The last one is War's Orphan. If you want to push the reactor while it's in the last hole of the track, you can do so, but you take a strength 9 hit to the body, which goes straight through the shields. I'm unsure which one of those I'd say is the best. The colour scheme. Let's zoom out and give you a bit more of that. The colour scheme varies between these two Titans. So the Warlord has the secondary colour be a sort of Sotek Sons of Horus green, with black being the main colour. There's a lot of black Titans in this. 3 out of the 4 Legios have black as a main armour colour. And the Reaver has a much sort of more Caliban green shoulder pad and leg plates. I think this Legio is alright. I don't think it's going to be popular though as the Murder Lords. So the Murder Lords are piloting almost proto-Chaos Titans. So they've dishonored themselves in the drop site massacre, their machine spirits have gone mad, and they can do all sorts of crazy stuff. You can see this colour scheme. I think this is going to be the fan favourite from this supplement. But these guys have got an insanity table. So you may remember Chaos Dreadnoughts between about 4th and 7th edition rolling on the going a bit crazy table. They did that as a compulsory thing. Murder Lords can choose to. So with any Titan, when you activate it in your movement phase, you can allow the madness of the Princeps to take over and roll on the insanity table. So the first one is Dark Embrace. You've got to move towards the nearest enemy Titan or Knight Banner by the shortest route possible, stopping if you reach base-to-base contact with another model, and then you make a smash attack or an attack with a weapon with the melee trait. So if you've got a Punch Reaver with a Power Fist and Chain Fist, Dark Embrace might be something you want to see come up. Weapon Overload. Titan gains the first fire order. When you fire in the movement phase, randomly fire 1 Titan weapon against the nearest enemy Titan or Knight Banner, counting the strength as 2 higher than normal and the dice as 1 higher than normal, but after you've resolved the attack you disable the chosen weapon. The last one, and this is the one you want in your close-in Titans, Static Scream. All Titans and Knight Banners, both friend and foe, within 12 inches of the Titan must remove their orders unless they're on shutdown or emergency repair. Titans who lost their orders before they activated are not subject to any of the lost orders restrictions. So you can really mess with your opponent's plan with that. You've got a stratagem, Portents of Doom at 2 points. Reveal it in the strategy phase. Any enemy Titan or Knight Banner within 12 inches of a Legio Infector Titan may not be issued orders this round. Again, it's to stop your opponent issuing orders, it's to stop them getting the bonuses from orders, it's to really mess them up. You've got another Legio stratagem, but it's only 1 point. Instead of making a roll on the Awakened Machine Spirit table, you can make an attack with each of the Titan's weapons against the closest model, friend or foe. There are reasons why you really might want to do that. So that's a 1 point stratagem. If your Reaver loses it and it's off next to an enemy Titan because you've got a Punch Reaver, 1 point stratagem, another attack with each weapon. Again, that can give you some real nice results close up. And Legio Wargear static rounds. Any Reaver or Warhound armed with Vulcan Megabolts may take static rounds for plus 15 points. Against targets with active void shields, each hit of 5 or 6 causes 2 hits rather than 1. If you need a 6th hit, no effect, but you've got no additional effects against targets without active void shields, although you get the normal effects of the rapid trait. That lets you strip shields off real quick. So if you've got a Warhound with 2 Vulcan Megabolters and you're running around stripping shields off as, say, part of a Venator Maniple to get opportunistic strikes with your Reaver with, say, a Melter Cannon, that helps shields go down real quick and then you get your opportunistic strike in. If you're taking Murder Lords, Bolter Warhounds are absolutely something to take. And then we've got the traits. Dark Fanatic. If you suffer catastrophic damage, roll a d10, 6, 7, 8, 9 or 10, you ignore it. Any other result is a catastrophic meltdown instead. Raving Madman. d10, when determining the first player or making a command check, any dice of 9 counts as a 6, any 6 can count as a 9, and it's your choice. And Hollowed Out, you don't add 2 to your command checks for the Princeps Seniores, but you ignore all damage effects from critical damage to the head, because you don't even have a crew really anymore. It's the demonic will of the Titan that drives it. So let's have a look at the colour scheme. Black with white stroke silver flames and red edging. So that's a very striking colour scheme. And there's a Warhound in the same scheme. So I'm not quite sure if this is white. It looks like this is sort of marbled off white. But yeah, that's a nice striking colour scheme, and that's why I think these guys are going to be the fan favourite from this supplement. That and the going crazy rules. So the Maniples. You've got 2 Maniples here. You've got the Fortis Maniple. So that lets you, it's a Battle Titan Maniple with compulsory Warlord and 2 compulsory Reavers, with an optional Warlord and an optional Reaver. With that, you get the Titanic Fortress rule. So, if you've got a Titan in base-to-base contact with another Titan in the Maniple and neither of them moved in the movement phase, you ignore armour roll modifiers from structural damage or being attacked in the flank or rear. In addition, you can merge your void shields. So, you give up manoeuvrability, you give up movement, but you get bonuses that make it less painful to get flanked, and you can merge your voids. I'm really not sure about this as a Maniple. I would really hesitate to give up the manoeuvrability. I'd hesitate to give up the ability to turn to keep things in arc, and so many missions in Titanicus involve moving across the board, moving to objectives, getting things done, and this doesn't help you do that. It's a great defensive Maniple. Absolutely, if somebody's got a crumb across the board to you, then you can sit there and you can merge a Warlord and a Reaver or 2 Warlords together, and suddenly you've got a huge pile of void shields and you're ignoring the penalties for getting flanked. But I think the standout Maniple is the Ferox Light Maniple. So let's zoom in on this. Mandatory components, a Reaver and 2 Warhounds. Optional components, a Reaver and a Warhound. I'll talk in a minute about what you can do regarding that, but Knife Fighters is the trait. So if you're making an attack against a target that is not further away than its scale in inches, so 10 inches for a Warlord, 8 inches for a Reaver, +1 to armour rolls. You can also choose either your weapon skill or ballistic skill when you're within 2 inches of an enemy for your rolls to hit. I think this is going to be a rival to things like the Venator and the Lupercal Maniple. So I like all the light Maniples basically. They're all pretty good, they all let you do interesting things, but I think if you combine this with Legio Celeria, which lets you switch Reavers for Warhounds, you've got some knife fighting Warhounds getting in close and murdering stuff. You've also got Legio Fortunis, so that's Legio Dormis in this book. Again, you can change one of the Titans round. So you can either have a Warlord replace a Reaver and get the benefit of knife fighting for that, or something else. You can switch a Reaver for a Warhound and you can run 4 Warhounds. I think this is, out of the 2 Maniples, much better. So it also, say a Reaver, 3 Warhounds, you're getting close to about 1,000 points for your Maniple, particularly if you use some Legio special rules or special equipment. So I really like that one. I think it's a maniple you can build small forces around. It's a maniple you're going to want to use, and it's a maniple that does a lot for you. I think if you combine that with, say, static rounds, you've got 3 warhounds with static rounds backing up a reaver. You make your reaver your punch titan, you've got your static rounds here, and you can do quite a lot. So it's a good maniple for murder lords. But I really like it. So that's covered the Legios and the Maniples. I'm going to come back with another video and cover the night houses, because it'll just be too long, because there's 7 night houses to cover and a whole way of constructing knight armies that needs a bit of explanation and has obvious consequences. So, Doom of Molech. So the Doom of Molech book, I really recommend it. It is a really good supplement, and it's going to let you do a whole bunch of new interesting things. The Legios in it are all reasonably interesting and play with the rules, particularly command and repair. I do think Murder Lords are going to be the fan favourite for both the striking colour scheme and the going crazy rules. If you want to troll your opponent a little bit, then both a stratagem and an insanity table result that remove orders from their titans is a good way of doing it. Static rounds I think are also great, particularly combined with Venator Maniples, particularly combined with Lupercal Maniples and Forex Maniples. But yeah, lets you do an awful lot, and that's just the titans in this, and this is a book mainly about the knights. So impressive, well written, and I can't wait to field some of these Legios and the Maniples in this book. Well, one of the Maniples in this book. So if you've liked this video, hit like and subscribe. If you want to chat, leave a comment below, but otherwise, good gaming.